have a really simple story. My grandfather had Alzheimer's disease when I was a kid, and he was kind of a clean living in church on Sundays kind of guy, so he was very physically fit, which meant that he was demented and not in a rest home, not requiring round-the-clock care for many, many years. So that left a very big imprint on me. My dad has it now. My grandmother was never diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease, but she probably had what's called vascular dementia, which is that it's caused by many, many small strokes. So not a massive stroke. She was never paralyzed or anything, but she was mentally not well. So that's what got me into this field in the first place. Well, what I'm going to do is do brain imaging of people from our Alzheimer's Disease Center to look at the effects of heart disease on the brain. So the current research that we're doing in the center is focused on the theme of how heart disease affects the brain. And the theory now that's coming out is that heart disease might be the thing that sets you up for Alzheimer's disease later in life. So what I tell people sometimes is that it could be that things like high blood pressure and diabetes and high cholesterol are like the first 9 rounds of the boxing match, where they are kind of softening you up, and then Alzheimer's disease is the 10th round knockout punch for your brain. So what I'm going to do is take a group of people who are still healthy, so they haven't been diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease, and I'm going to do brain imaging that looks at the flow of blood from the heart to the brain. And the idea there is that if I see people, because like I said, they're still functioning normally in their daily life, they can still remember things, they can still have their hobbies and activities, but if it looks like they have problems with blood flow into the brain, then those are the people that I want to follow over time to see if those people are the ones who eventually have the loss of brain tissue that leads to Alzheimer's disease. So, and the reason why I find this exciting is that I don't have to tell Mr. Fisher this, but we've repeatedly seen failures to find effective drugs for Alzheimer's disease. But heart disease, on the other hand, is eminently preventable. There are all kinds of different effective treatments for high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and for diabetes. And so the big kind of holy grail is, what if we could prevent many cases of Alzheimer's disease simply by preventing vascular disease? I mean, that's a really striking concept for us. And so we're trying to determine whether that's actually true through this study. So, but all of these things are connected to each other. So diet and exercise we hear about all the time in relation to Alzheimer's disease, and it makes sense that that goes through the heart. So diet and exercise affects how blood flows to the brain, which affects how well you're able to maintain your brain tissue. And if you're unable to do that, then that might be the thing that weakens the brain enough that allows Alzheimer's disease to take over.
How do you see the blood flow?
We use magnetic resonance imaging of the brain. So there's some very technologically advanced techniques that at the physics level I kind of just understand well enough to get by. But what they do is they use magnetic fields to figure out where blood is going in the brain, how fast it's going there, and kind of how efficiently the oxygenated blood goes into the brain and cycles out. So in people with Alzheimer's disease, this is really impaired. And the question is Alzheimer's disease causing that? Or was that already there before you had Alzheimer's disease due to your high blood pressure or your high cholesterol or your other heart disease? So that's the big mystery that we're trying to unravel. My dream for Alzheimer's disease in the near term is not nearly as ambitious as a lot of people. I wish, it sounds terrible, but I wish Alzheimer's would turn into cancer. So, or that Alzheimer's disease would be like cancer is now, where you can go to the doctor, have a test done, whether it's a mammogram or a blood test, and be told that you have cancer, and you look at the doctor like he's crazy and say, well, what are you talking about? I feel fine. If that were to happen with Alzheimer's disease, where we could definitively say that it's in the brain even though you currently feel fine, we would be light years ahead of where we are now. And I think a lot of what we thought of as being failed therapies might get resurrected, because if they're applied that early in the game, who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe they might stall off the disease in the same way that cancer treatments stall off cancer.